Imagine this. A high-profile corporate assassination, a huge nationwide manhunt, and the suspect is finally cornered. In a McDonald's, of all places.
Right, after giving a forged ID.
Exactly. Now, picture that suspect's defense team standing up in court and saying all the physical evidence, the loaded gun, the silencer, even the detailed escape notes, all of it should just be thrown out.
And that's not a hypothetical. That is exactly what's happening right now in Manhattan Criminal Court. It's the suppression hearing for Luigi Mangione, the man accused of killing UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson.
So we're not even talking about guilt or innocence yet.
Not at all. We're talking about whether the state's evidence, the very foundation of their case, was collected legally. It's a huge deal.
Okay, this is what we need to unpack. We're doing a deep dive into this constitutional showdown. We're going to look at how the defense is using the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, the bedrock protections we all have, to challenge this entire evidence haul.
And our mission here is to really get into the details, Look at the defense's claims, what the prosecution is arguing back, and why even tiny things, like an officer apologizing, can suddenly become critical pieces of evidence.
So let's set the scene. The arrest. It's December 9, 2024. Mangione is in Altoona, Pennsylvania.
Right, and he gets recognized by a manager at a McDonald's, a really sharp-eyed manager who calls the police.
He's captured. But it's what happened right after that moment, the immediate next steps, that's now being put under this legal microscope.
Precisely. As soon as Mangione's in custody, the officers start to inventory what's in his backpack. And from a prosecutor's perspective, what they find is just the gold standard.
It shows everything.
Everything. Means opportunity, very specific planning. This physical evidence is what connects him directly to the crime.
We really need to go through this list because the sheer amount of evidence they're trying to exclude, it just shows you how high the stakes are. So what exactly did they find?
It's an incredible list. Okay, first, the obvious. A loaded handgun and a silencer. But it's the other stuff that really speaks to a state of mind. They found a magazine fully loaded with bullets. And here's the detail that it's just so bizarre. It was allegedly wrapped in wet underwear.
Wet underwear, wow.
Yeah.
It was just the contrast. The meticulous planning of an assassination, and then something so chaotic.
It really is. It paints a picture, And beyond the weapons, they found the more standard things, a cell phone, a passport, his Maryland ID, some bank cards.
But the key thing for the arrest itself was the fake ID.
Yes, the forged identification card.
Yep.
He handed it to the officers and gave them the name Mark Rosario. And right there, that's a whole separate crime committed right in front of them at the McDonald's.
And the notes, this isn't just circumstantial stuff. This is like a blueprint for getting away.
It's exactly that. A notebook detailing a planned escape route, what clothes to wear, and a to-do list. And these aren't vague ideas. They're super specific instructions.
Give us some of the lines, the things a prosecutor would love to read to a jury.
Oh, yeah. Things like, buy black sneakers, white stripe too distinctive.
Wow.
And change hat, shoes, pluck eyebrows. It's this chilling focus on every little detail of his appearance. But the real kicker, the line that shows he knew what was happening, was a reminder to himself. Keep momentum, FBI, slower.
So you have this mountain of evidence. You've got the weapon, the escape plan, clear intent.
Yeah.
All of it collected right at the arrest. And now the defense says because the cops acted too fast, none of it can be used.
And that's where the constitutional fight really begins.
Okay,
so this is where our deep dive gets, deep. The defense is trying to use the two biggest shields in our legal system to make all that evidence just disappear.
the Fourth and Fifth Amendments.
Exactly. The fourth on search and seizure and the fifth on due process.
So let's start with the fourth. It protects you, everyone listening, from unreasonable searches. And the defense's claim, I think, to a lot of people, it probably sounds crazy. Why would police need a warrant to look in the bag of a guy they just arrested?
Because the rule is strict. Warrantless searches are automatically seen as unconstitutional unless they fit into a very, very specific exception.
So the defense is saying they should have gotten a warrant before looking in the backpack.
That's the argument. And if the judge agrees that the first search was illegal, then all that evidence, the gun, the silencer, the notes, everything, it could be considered fruit of the poisonous tree.
Can we just break that phrase down? Fruit of the poisonous tree? It sounds dramatic.
It's a powerful legal idea.
Yeah.
It means if the initial action by the police, the tree, was illegal or poisonous, then all the evidence they got from it, the fruit, is tainted.
So it can't be used.
It has to be suppressed. It doesn't matter how damning it is. If you get it the wrong way, constitutionally speaking, it's out.
So how are prosecutors fighting this? What's their argument for why that search was legal?
They're leaning very heavily on an exception called search incident to arrest. It's a well-known doctrine. It lets officers search a person they've just arrested and the area right around them, like a backpack they're holding, to make sure they don't have weapons and can't destroy evidence.
And their argument is, since the arrest was legal, especially after he gave them a fake ID, the search of the bag was perfectly fine.
Right. But the defense is probably going to argue that the search went too far, that it wasn't just a quick check for a weapon for safety. They'll say it was a full-blown investigatory search, a deep dive into the bag's contents, and for that, you need a warrant.
And this is where it gets just fascinating. Because the body cam footage shown in court, it actually shows the police debating this among themselves in real time.
It's an incredible moment of transparency. You have one officer, Stephen Fox, arguing that a warrant wasn't necessary. He's saying, look, search incident to arrest, we're covered.
But another officer wasn't so sure.
No, you hear another officer on the camera saying they did need a search warrant specifically because of the severity of the case.
That disagreement is a gift for the defense. It shows even the police weren't 100% sure they were on solid legal ground.
Exactly. Now, they did get warrants approved later that day to officially seize everything and send it to the NYPD. But the defense is attacking that very first initial entry into the bag. If that moment was illegal, those later warrants might not be enough to save the evidence.
Okay, so let's shift from the physical evidence, from the stuff in the bag, to the verbal evidence. Because even if the defense gets the backpack thrown out, the prosecution has something else.
They do. They have statements that Mangione himself allegedly made after the arrest, and this brings us to the Fifth Amendment.
The right against self-incrimination, the whole "you have the right to remain silent" thing.
Right. Miranda rights. The defense says these statements weren't Mirandized, so they should be excluded. But the prosecution's counter is that these weren't part of an interrogation. They were just spontaneous comments.
The key witness here again is Officer Stephen Fox, the one who escorted Mangione after his arraignment in Pennsylvania.
And Officer Fox testified that as they were leaving the courthouse, Mangione was just visibly stunned by the huge crowd outside, the media, the public, the whole spectacle.
And what he allegedly said in that moment is a huge piece of the narrative for the prosecution.
It is. Officer Fox testified that Mangione looked at the crowd and said, "All these people are here for a mass murder. Wild."
Wild. That's not a confession, but it's an admission of awareness of the massive scale of the crime he's accused of.
It shows his mental state, his acceptance almost of this new reality. And there was another exchange, a smaller one, that's just as telling.
This was when Officer Fox apologized.
Yeah, he apologized for walking too fast while Mangione was in shackles, which made him stumble. And Mangione allegedly just replied, very casually, "It's okay, I'm going to have to get used to it."
Wow. Get used to it. I mean, you can see how a prosecutor would frame that.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like resignation, like an acceptance of a future in custody. And again, the argument is that this isn't an interrogation, it's just a comment. It doesn't need a Miranda warning.
But the most powerful testimony about his attitude came from a question about sincerity. Mangione had apologized for the trouble he caused at the McDonald's.
Right. And in court, Officer Fox was asked how genuine that apology sounded.
What did he say?
His answer was just blunt. He said, "I guess as genuine as someone who just assassinated someone." And that one line, whether it gets admitted or not, paints a very, very strong picture for anyone listening.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for you if you're following this case? This suppression hearing, it's basically the whole pretrial game right here.
It really is. The outcome will decide if the jury ever gets to see the most important physical evidence, the gun, the silencer, those incredibly detailed notes. If the defense wins this, the state's case is in serious trouble.
And this case is just a live demonstration of how our constitutional rights work under extreme pressure. You're watching the Fourth and Fifth Amendments being tested when police have to act fast in a huge, dangerous case.
It shows that in a courtroom, everything matters. I mean, tiny little details. An officer saying sorry for walking too fast. A suspect's surprise at seeing a crowd.
Yeah, all of it can become pivotal evidence.
And that debate we heard on the body cam with the officers themselves going back and forth about needing a warrant, that shows you just how thin that line is between what's lawful police work and what's an unconstitutional search.
So for you, the person listening, I think the question this case leaves us with is a really big one. When a suspect is clearly identified and they're arrested for a crime this severe, how do you balance the need for public safety and collecting evidence quickly against an individual's fundamental constitutional rights?
There's no easy answer. This hearing isn't just about one man's trial. It's about drawing the line for where government power begins and ends in a crisis.